Have you heard of cultural properties called cultural landscapes? This video introduces the Cultural Landscape Protection System. Please also watch What are cultural landscapes? And Regional development using cultural landscapes. Cultural landscape is a category of cultural property newly established in the 2004 Amendment to the Law for the Protection of Cultural Properties. The protection system came into effect on April 1, 2005. It was around this time when the abandonment of rice terraces caused by aging and depopulation of rural areas became apparent, and forest management and the relationship between people's lives and the mountains diminished, such that it began to become a social issue. In the international community, through UNESCO World Heritage Program, the concept that landscape, like rice terraces and sacred mountains, resulted from the relationship between people and nature is an important expression of culture, began to take root under the term cultural landscape. In this way, cultural landscape is cultural property deeply tied to how people live and work, even to this day. And so efforts to protect these landscapes will be a great challenge unless the locals know the landscape features well, cherish them, and desire to pass them on to future generations. Understanding and cooperating with the various stakeholders surrounding them is also important. In Japan, the process for selecting cultural landscapes as an important cultural landscape at the national level involves the local government clarifying the landscape's intrinsic value, taking appropriate measures to preserve it, and submitting a request for selection to the national government. Once submitted, the national government confirms that the value of the cultural landscape meets the important cultural landscape selection criteria, after which the Minister of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology selects it as an important cultural landscape. To meet the important cultural landscape selection criteria, the cultural landscape must qualify as one or more of cultural landscape associated with agriculture, cultural landscape associated with man-made grassland or livestock ranching, cultural landscape associated with forest use, cultural landscape associated with fisheries, cultural landscape associated with water use, cultural landscape associated with mining or industrial manufacture, cultural landscape associated with transportation and communication, cultural landscape associated with residences. In addition, the local government must show how the landscape characterizes the basic life or livelihoods of Japanese citizens and explain how it is typical or unique. When applying for selection, local governments must also take 4 necessary preservation measures. First, the area to be selected must be within a landscape planning area or landscape district as defined in landscape law. Second, a cultural landscape management plan must be established. Third, the necessary regulations for preservation must be established in ordinances under landscape law and other laws. And fourth, the name and address of the owner of the cultural landscape must be determined. Important cultural landscapes are protected by various laws and regulations, such as the Natural Park Act, the Forest Act, the Act on Establishment of Agricultural Promotion Regions, the Wildlife Protection, Control and Hunting Management Act, the City Park Act, the City Planning Act, and the Law for the Protection of Cultural Properties. case of any destruction or damage to an important cultural landscape, the owner or similar party must notify the Commissioner of the Agency for Cultural Affairs within 10 days of learning of the destruction or damage. For any actions changing the current state, the operator must notify the Commissioner at least 30 days prior to making the change. In system operations, important components are subject to notification prior to alteration of the existing state. An important component is any land, structure, or natural object that is indispensable for understanding the cultural landscape and must be identified in the Cultural Landscape Management Plan. The Agency for Cultural Affairs supports local government efforts by subsidizing expenses for important cultural landscape preservation and utilization, and by providing tax incentives for local fiscal measures and property taxes. Once selected, projects are carried out in various locations, including disaster recovery, intervention to restore and improve the cultural landscape's characteristics, disaster prevention such as seismic reinforcement, setting up of guidance facilities using old houses, installation of signs and interpretation boards. Important cultural landscapes are cultural properties formed by the continuation of lives and livelihoods in the region, supported by local identity and initiative. Their protection is achieved in connection with various laws and ordinances that conserve the natural and urban environments, create good landscapes, and support local industries. In efforts to preserve and utilize these landscapes, it is important that residents, experts, and the relevant local government departments come together to discuss the future goals of the region, the significance of the cultural landscape in reaching that goal, as well as the framework for cooperation from the research stages in clarifying the landscape's intrinsic value and through formulating the Cultural Landscape Management Plan. After selection as well, it is important to clarify and confirm local challenges and necessary initiatives, and to discuss about management of changes based on the management plan. Local governments working to pass down cultural landscapes have established the Cultural Landscape District Liaison Council to exchange information and opinions, and are working to raise awareness and improve measures. Important cultural landscapes are spread throughout the country, from Hokkaido to Okinawa. A list and distribution map are available on the Agency for Cultural Affairs website. And please visit important cultural landscapes across the country.